All right, Islam, everyone. We're going to begin the class. Everyone is here, and if they're not here, they will be here shortly. All right. Islam, everyone. All right. Every class, almost every class, we begin by reading chapter 25 of the Holy Quran. If you are in agreement with it, affirm by saying Islam. After I finish reading, ye are the children of one father, provided for by his care, and the breast of one mother hath given you son. By the bonds of affection, therefore, unite thee with thy brothers and sisters, dwell in thy father's house. And when ye separate in the world, remember the relation that bindeth you to love and unity, and prefer not a stranger before thine own blood. If thy brother is in adversity, assist him out. If thy sister is in trouble, forsake her not. So shall the fortunes of thy father contribute to the support of his whole nation, and his care be continued to you all in your love to each other. Islam. All right. I don't know if this microphone is on. Let me see. It is on. All right. How many people listened to the show last night? The Blog Talk Radio. How many people know we have the Blog Talk Radio every Tuesday? All right. Well, let's see. Moorish Heritage and History School has a Tuesday program entitled MHHS Eyes Wide Open. It broadcasts every Tuesday at 9:30 p.m. And then we broadcast this class every Wednesday, whether we're here or abroad, beginning at 7:30. And then the third Thursday of the month, we have Sons of Allah, which broadcasts at 9 p.m. And then we have Sisters Standing on Law, which is the third Sunday of the month, and that's broadcast at 1 o'clock. So, we have quite a lineup of information, and all of those broadcasts are archived, and you can go and listen to them. There's like 3 years' worth that you can go back and listen to for free and get caught up with information. All right? Islam? All right. So today, what is going to be, Ms. Rahim Al-Ilm is going to be doing part 2, I believe, of Are You in Denial of Your Ancestors? And while we're getting set up, in my purse, I do. Now, you need it. Oh, yeah. Oh, yes, I have it. And, no, I didn't. But that's all right. No, we don't, because I got my earpiece in, and I'm still talking. But, yes. All right. I'm cutting you on.
All right, hold on.
Okay. Yeah, no, I didn't put that up there. You can move it. And you're online.
Oh, I see. Right, projection. So when it is, wow.
You're on. Come on. You're not
ready to hook him up. That's what it is.
Yeah, I'm getting ready. I'm getting him.
All right, so we're here. You got out of the way for those reasons. While she's looking for that, how's everyone doing? Do you understand we're only here the second and third week of the month? Years ago, I told people there'll be a day when we won't be here at all. It looks like it's coming to that slow down right now. The second and third week, that's it. They're not going to be here any other time unless it's the fourth week, if there's 5 weeks, possibly 50 minutes away. All right? Anything else other than that, we'll just have to let you know. But that's the way that it is right now. Am I going now? All right. That's the way that it is right now. That's the way it got to be for the moment. There's a lot of things going on everywhere. As you all know, in your personal lives and the collective nation work. One of the things that we really, really, really want to keep people aware of is that you do not set a new government, you do not start a new constitution, cannot do that. It already exists. So people try to start a new nation, a new government, a new anything, like that, because we ran into one situation, and what was the name that I was calling it? They knew what? United States.
He was calling it the United States of America Republic.
United States of America
Re-established.
Right.
2015.
How the hell is that even possible? Like, what kind of ego trip are we on to even say?
And he's the president.
And he's the president of the United States Republic, re-established 2015. United States of America is already been defined as a republic. Like, I know what I do, so I yes, of course, like, log yourself in there. And get it. The government is already established because it's really you. And if no one else can do that, and we need to do, we've all failed to do, any time to enforce that which already is, which is the damn Constitution, because it protects everybody's rights, including any others that might be the other citizens. When will we do that instead of trying to create something new, which is why it's not going to be. Wait for these things to be ready. Yeah, my biggest announcement is the self. That's what I want to do. We would not have the process. And if we follow up the people who know that they're starting a new government with a new flag, we also wouldn't have any other problems. It all gets exist like corporate trash. It's of your forefathers. So if that's the case, what are you talking about something new when you haven't even tried on the ground in the first place? You see what I'm saying? So do for the decision right there and make the full action. Intended to make us full action. Make you and us and whoever they count to over this thing. Right? It's like, look, there's certain things that we just cannot talk about because it's very, very easy. This is about human rights. You got that? And simply not clear. Not civil rights or civil rights and liberties. Do you understand? Not about the 15th, 15th Amendment civil rights. And it's damn sure ain't about gay rights. Because gay rights are in civil and human rights. Now, I just want y'all to hear we don't get excited. The whole part about gay rights is to pervert and grow that whole thing of human rights and civil rights. Because when you have sex, so different. I asked, was I being heard? I don't. So I'm not being heard. I do, but I don't think it connected. I don't think it connected for some reason on my phone, and that's why, I don't think. But I'll try to connect it again. No, I do not, because I'm getting ready to study. I'm out of here. I know why. Can you cut off that sound tube wherever it is? Whoever bought Anisha bought in a sound tube that we were listening to. And that's why I can't connect to my what I call. I don't know. Anissa has it over there. Can you cut it off? The little black. Now, when I'm not echoing, I don't know that I'm being picked up on the air. Is that the problem? Anyway, so I'll talk to my phone in the meantime. So anyway, what I'm saying is this. Let me just go back to this. It's ultra important, is that we get it clear that civil or human rights and civil liberties, as far as gay rights, it doesn't exist. It's human rights and civil liberties. They are encompassed. Everybody's right to do what they wish to, provided they don't harm another, is encompassed under human rights. Now, people who have been called gay, and that's the first thing that I would like to do, is take that word away. Because gay means happy people, and I like to be gay because I like to be happy. I like for that word to not belong as a coin on any group of people based on their sexual preference. See, this is the fault that we have had because we have been, our heads have been in the sand about things regarding our civil liberties. So now if I say that today, then all of a sudden people who are for gays, well, you didn't say nothing before, and, they have, and now that we can marry. Well, here's the deal. It's not about that because no one needs the permission to marry with a corporation. So therefore, if you would see that human rights and civil liberties, right, are encompasses that same thing. But what they got is this new movement that the so-called quote-unquote gay movement to try to shadow over human rights. Do you understand? You understand that? That's exactly what happened. This thing is very well thought out because these supposedly gay people have been feeling they've been discriminated upon because of their sexual choice, which should never have been questioned in the first place because it's your business. At the same time, you look at TV now, right now, you're offended at it. But they've been doing it all along. So their position could be, well, why didn't you complain when they were showing sex on TV with men and women? Oh, now you want to complain because they showing it with men and men. Do you understand what's happening here? To cause a disagreement and discussion about that. This shit is so sick that the pendulum has gone so far. And I'm not talking about gay. I'm talking about all of it. Okay, so far gay because it ain't gay. It's so sick. So now that you're waking up and being conscious, they go with the other, they had the other thing coming because the truth is, bestiality and gay, homosexuality, as we call it, has been always there from the time they were in the cage. Because you didn't know that, no history of that, now you want to deal with, well, I'm only gay because of circumstances. You see, they got you thinking it's from circumstances. I'm a circumstances gay person, so-called gay person, the circumstances. I got thrown in jail for all that, Or if I having sex with a guy or having oral sex with me, I'm gay, and all this craziness that comes with it, which may or may not be true, but it ain't nobody's damn business who you have sex with anyway, if you're grown. You understand? It's a violation. So the new thing is coming in now to overthrow, but it won't happen, though. But so now you got to stick with your path of civil human rights and civil liberty. And don't get it confused with Civil Rights Act, 15th Amendment. Don't get it confused. Okay? All right? Because that's what's happening now. But what we're being kid up against, guess what? It's always been there. It's just that your eyes are open to see it now. That's all. So stick with where you are, and then ain't no fight about, what somebody's sexual preference is. But truthfully, it ain't nobody's damn business. You know what I mean? And that's where it should have stayed, where it belongs. No one should have been discriminated upon regarding saying. You understand? Now you can go into, let's talk about this question, let's talk about that. There's so many circumstances within the topic of conversation that can be sliced apart, but I'm not here to discuss all that. I'm just here to show you that this is what is going on because we have lacked in ourselves in knowledge. You understand what I'm saying? And this all really started, I'm saying, don't get misled by people who may pull you in to some new government, some new United States Republic. Are you ready? Republic government. How smug of anybody. And, of course, it was a guy that's starting the United States Republic reestablished. But really, see, now that's where he needs to be shown and set his ass down. Because, first of all, sons can't start nations. It's a disrespect to women because she came here with the nation in her womb. That's number one. The greater respect for womanhood falls right there. That you think you're going to go start a nation. It's a disrespect to the women who come here with the nation in their womb already. And I'm not going to be afraid of saying that because somebody might be offended. That's just the truth. You need to have listened to that because now you've got these people talking about they're starting a nation when that's not possible. Same thing goes with when we were talking about David. All right, you and him going to get married. Then one day you're going to have children. And how's that going to happen? No problem. I'm going to take the child that this so-called black woman don't work since they've been robbing all the women, and I'm going to do the right thing, and I'm going to raise that child. It's going to work. Yeah, you can laugh about it, but think about it. Just think about it, because them babies is the sister's babies that came out of her womb need to wake the hell up and get this shit straight and don't be allowing nobody to take her baby. That's it. And that's all I'm saying. I ain't got nothing against anybody adopting a child that doesn't want it. But wake up. Stop acting like you don't know. You got friends out there talking they starting nations and you act like you don't do that. And this one time is going to start the United States Republic reestablished, and he's the president. But you just like Truman and Flick and that. That's it. The United States Republic was established for the foreign European citizens. What the hell? It's crazy. Yes. All right, so I'm going to sit myself down, and I understand what I had to say. I know Mars is in retrograde, Mercury's in retrograde, a whole bunch of stuff is in retrograde, and so I had that passion of saying what I wanted to say today, and I am now done. Thanks for listening.
Islam, peace and love. First and foremost, is that straight or should I adjust it more for you to see clear? Or are we good? I tried to do the best I could here. It's cool. All right. Definitely glad to be back. Good to see you back in the building again. Part 2. All right. So last time, what was that? April 20th. I did a preview to Are You in Denial of Your Ancestry Part 3. And it's definitely good to see some of you back for this second preview. All right. Now, again, the release date is pushed back, but that's nobody's fault but my own because I recognized a few things that I had to put in here. So like I told you and like my mother was just saying, government and family go together. We left off on person last time, just to recap because there is a few people who isn't here. I went through the aspects of those 2 papoose boards, the 2 baby dolls, with the Christian cross at their feet, okay, the birth certificates as well. All of that was a part of this imagery. At the place I was staying at during my grandfather's funeral time. So this is what really stuck out to me. And again, basically what I did was I took that experience and converted it to national lessons so we all can actually learn for the record based off of this experience because, again, like I said, everything meant something, every single thing. So it didn't stop there as far as what I'm sharing, but definitely this is important. Again, we left off at person being face mask. And again, I got to emphasize it's imperative to know your family, and I'll get back to that in a moment. So, all right, so where we left off with was person. All right, the definition of person meaning the face mask used by actors on the stage, hence a character, a person from persona to sound through, and sonare sound. The word person in its primitive sense signifies the mask with which actors who played dramatic pieces in Rome and Greece covered their heads. These pieces were played in public places and afterward in such vast amphitheaters that it was impossible for a man to make himself heard by all the spectators. Recourse was had to art All right, so art is a big part in this aspect. The head of each actor was enveloped with a mask, the figure of which represented the part he was to play, and it was so contrived that the opening for the emission of his voice made the sound clearer and more resounding, vox personabat, which the name persona was given to the instrument or mask, which facilitated the resounding of his voice. Excuse me. The name persona was afterward applied to the part itself, which actor had undertaken to play because the face of the mask was adapted to the age and to the character of him who was considered as speaking. And sometimes it was his own portrait. It is in this last sense of personage, or the part which an individual plays, that the word persona is employed in jurisprudence in opposition to the word man or homo. And it's funny you was mentioning gay people. I'm not really going into that conversation, but I'm saying as far as a lot of people's misconception of the word homo, this is where you got the word human. All of this is derived from that, homo sapiens, etc. So scientifically, there's nothing wrong with that word, but I want to contrast that with person, all right? So when we speak of a person, it says we only consider the state of the man, the part he plays in society, abstractly without considering the individual. So that goes back to the difference in the distinguishment between natural persons and artificial persons, which is why it's imperative if you claim persons to make sure that you qualify natural person, all right, because there's a distinguishment in law. We know that going back to those birth certificates, et cetera, you see the definition has been referenced over the years multiple times, but the definition of person in your Black's Law 4th edition will lead you to the fact that person, as that word is used in the 14th Amendment, is relative to corporations, which goes back to the invalidity of the 14th Amendment, and why, as being in contact or in tune with or being yourself, you know the difference between an artificial person, a natural person, and artificial citizenship, artificial boundaries, going back to territorial jurisdiction. All right, all of these things are imperative as far as not being in denial of your ancestors and how to navigate with that. All right, so when I was thinking back to this lesson on person, how it was related to face mask, and that face mask being in the lobby, all of that spawned this lesson on this international law maxim, where it says, again, and this is, you can find this in your Black's Law Dictionary. I'm kind of glad you segued that so we can clear this up, that it's a maxim, homo vocabulum est nature persona juris civilis, which means man is a term of nature and person that of civil law. All right, so there's a difference in the jurisdiction, but I understand that natural person is different than just claiming person on his face. And with that being said, I had to give props to Noble Drew Ali when he explicitly said man will regain his lost estate, his heritage, but he must do it in a conflict that cannot be told in words. That was specific law. Now, my thing is this. I know there's a lot of the Moorish family. One of the things that inspired me to go into this next lesson was one day I was walking in the streets of so-called New York, and I saw a sister with her boxes that was just like that, more than half the block. She didn't have a place to live. Now, there's many people like that, but when I saw her with all this luggage and baggage, it oh, all right. Can I move that on this side?
Yep.
All right, cool. Oh, all right, yeah, we good.
You need it, so you can talk.
All right, cool. Oh. Definitely. That's way better, right? All right, cool. So, all right. So, like I said, when I saw the sister with all of that luggage, it reminded me that, you know, as all of us Moors being descendants of this land, we should never have to be in that position. I can't, like Noble Drew Ali said, you know what I mean? Man has to regain his lost estate in a conflict that cannot be told in words. But what I did was, since I can't tell somebody how to go through that, I definitely wanted to give some references to Moors that we can take examples and learn from, starting with this ancestor right here. Whereas in 1825 to 1826, they took a visit to Washington, D.C. to reacquire lands from them that was taken by the quote-unquote United States after the purchase of Florida in 1819. All right? Now, the reason why I had to go into this correlative to what we was just talking about is that we could take a lesson from this current day, whereas these Moors went to D.C. to reacquire lands, and in reality, we are the true possessors without approval, all right? So in respect to this, it is imperative for Moors to know in these days that ancestral estates cannot be brought, sold, or transferred. It is our birthright to possess. I'm not saying go out and do whatever. I'm just for our people to understand this a little bit more.
Right.
And there's a maxim that correlates with that says the right of blood cannot be destroyed by any civil law. All right? And the possession of land is notice to all the world of the possessor's rights thereunder. So us being the true possessors, right, we would never have to necessarily look to D.C. for approval. This was my point that I'm making here, is that, yes, they put in the work to reacquire lands, but was it necessary knowing your birthright, exercising your birthright? And that's why I just touched briefly on that aspect and this definition here of the right of entry that you can find in your Henry Campbell Black's Law Dictionary, because I definitely wanted to give references to remedies, you know, things whereas I can't tell you how to get your lost estate back, but give you reference points to whereas if you do, then you have something to work with, if you will. Because, as I said before, I started off talking about co-parceners, us being co-heirs in inheritance. We have co-parceners across the great Atlantic, things of that nature. But we need to understand, because a lot of people, you know, and this was geared also, again, I was speaking directly to Moors who know, but then I'm trying to wake up Moors who don't know at the same time. But the fact that we have history here, we are the Aboriginal people here, these things apply. I know of many of people who've been falsely accused, things of that nature. I figured that I'll just express that there. And with that concept of the right of entry and the possession of land is noticed to all the world of the possessor's rights thereunder, I also wanted to correlate that back to the Holy Quran by Yusuf Ali, Surah 24, number 29, and Noor, the light. Now, mind you, I'm not trying to convert anybody's religion. You have your own liberty of conscience. I told you before the reason why I was talking on these subjects is because those baby dolls with the cross at their feet and the birth certificates in their hand. So I didn't leave any aspects out. Please stick to your liberty of conscience. I'm just giving you something to think about. So in that particular surah, it says there is no fault on your part to enter houses not used for living in, which serve some other use for you. And Allah has knowledge of what you reveal and what you conceal. And to me, this concept is secured by the American law of the land, First Amendment. It goes on, here's a case law, Townsend versus Kearns. It says the bare possession or occupancy is a sufficient title to maintain trespass against all the world except the proprietors themselves, which that would be Moors, the Aboriginal indigenous people. So understand that as far as actually putting your nationality and birthrights into actions, these are things to look into, all right? Because the Moors, Americans are the proprietors and or the true possessors by lineage themselves, and in correlation with the right of entry, I find it imperative to share these concepts to fortify the foundation of lawful possessions on Moors Americans' ancestral estate, national domicile in North America, for instance, where shelter becomes a necessity of life. All right? it goes back to your ancestors. Excuse me. Oh, all right, pardon. Hold on, excuse me, fam. All right, well, I'll go in on that for a minute, but this thing is frozen. But all is well. So basically what my intention was with that, and let's just get back right so we can continue, is just the fact that these are things we need to know among other things. You know what I mean? Yeah, I don't know why it won't scroll. It just will not scroll, bro.
I don't hear him at all.
Maybe you could check that. But, yeah, it goes back to the fact that, you know, yeah, we are Moors, but how does that, and I'll get into that in a minute, because it's definitely relative as well to, continue this page. Will it scroll? Okay, we good. Yeah. All right, yeah, and the reason I was going into that is because, again, it goes back to descent, which is hereditary succession to the ownership of an estate by inheritance or by any act of law as distinguished from purchase. All right, now I wanted to emphasize that point because, you know, everybody is basically at the general conclusion that we need schools, we need things, we need buildings, we need all of these things. But the foundation I find is usually faulty because the first thing that they think is we need to gang up all these millions of notes to do something or acquire something for ourselves as a nation. All right? And this is why I see that there's no click, because if we're going to move as a nation, we have to put the descent in the forefront of things with identity. So what would we really be saying? By inheritance, not by purchase, but by descent. You understand what I'm saying? These are concepts for real. Now, I'm not going to go into that the whole way, but remind you, this was based off of my thought wave right after my grandfather's funeral. Inheritance, heritage, lineage, all of these things that we all do need to know. All right? There's a case law there, Johnson versus McIntosh, etc. That's been a landmark, but the only thing is that you got to understand the difference between the de facto case laws, where they're saying, okay, yeah, Aboriginal people have title whereas it can't even be questioned, you know what I mean, but we're not Indians. That's a major point, major concept, because it's our heritage. So, like, you see a lot of people, you know, going through different things where they're being cheated out of their states, and different European corporations is coming over. So granted, let's say your family had 10 acres of land, and just one house on all of that land. What the Europeans will do usually is, I don't know what happened. I think you just cut my mic. But, all right, cool. So what will happen usually is they'll come right in, clear it out, make your driveway a whole nother street type of thing, and put up multiple houses under a monopoly. You understand what I'm saying to you? So in law, there's a maxim that prevention is better than cure. This is why I'm trying my best here to give cures and remedies to certain situations like that as it relates to your ancestors direct. And I would say, you know, in studying your history, start with your family. It's imperative, you know what I mean, that you really start with your family. And I will explain that in a minute. All right? Islam, sis. Yes. Yeah. Hold on. The mic is not working. Nah. It's all good. Yeah, my fault. Hold on, sis. It's not on. Is it on? Nah, it's not on. Whatever y'all did, it just cut off. Hold on, my fault. Okay. You could just ask it.
Okay. As I was saying, my brother, I have been to many powwows here in Brooklyn and other places. And they still, the Native Americans, our brothers and sisters, still designate themselves as branded as still call themselves Indians. Now, is this a violation of their inheritance rights to the land? And does that, because they accept the word or the brand Indian, does that relegate them to the reservation or plantation?
Yes, in certain aspects, indeed. It's not on. Are we good? Is this good?
Yeah.
I'm on? No, this is not on.
No, we turned it off because it was a lot of feedback going over the air.
Oh, okay. Was that me?
Yeah.
All right. So what about now? Is it a lot of feedback now?
No. It's coming from that other mic. That's when we unplugged it.
Oh, all right.
We
Okay.
that other mic.
Cool.
There you go.
All right. Okay.
Turn that on.
Most certainly. All right. We good?
No.
All right. When you have a question or anybody has a question, I'll pass this mic instead. All right. All right. I said when anybody has a question, I'll pass the mic. All right. Cool. All right. So back to what you were saying, the Indian brand. That's a falsehood ab initio. All right, so when they having powwows, etc., I'm not ever knocking culture, but the brand is a misrepresentation. All right, when you go, because we all know just basic geography that this is not India, this is not Hindustan. If you're talking about real Indians, quote unquote, then you would have to go to Asia, etc. You know what I mean? But it's not to get it confused because it's like a truth and falsehood, strangely mixed type of concept, whereas we are Asiatics, but we're not Indians. Like all Asiatics aren't Indians. So that was the brand, that was like the first brand that they put on Moors of North America was Indian, all right? So we have to be able to refine that and shed that brand just like Negro, black, and colored. Now, granted, they might have some artificial contracts under those titles and things of that nature, but that wouldn't be considered a real treaty. I do get into that in the later part of this book, the difference between real treaties and fake treaties, etc. Well, not that they're fake treaties, they're personal treaties. Real treaties is when you're talking about a collective, international law. Real treaties is when you're talking about a collective nation, you understand, opposed to a tribe, because there's a difference between tribes and nations. So in law, international law, that's a known fact. It's the difference between tribes and nations. And basically, when you look at the modern map today, where you got all these different territories carved out, these are basically just territories that certain tribes took over. And they became, quote, unquote, nation states, etc., or kingdoms, however you want to look at it. You know what I mean? I don't know the proper way to say it, the queendom or whatnot, but all of this included the male and female. You understand what I'm saying? Territories, they lose. All right? So the thing is to keep in mind it's a nation first. All right? So therefore, Moors, the copper complexion, brown-skinned Aboriginal people being in the West before the pale people have the highest, and when I say pale people, I mean the modern Europeans, all right? And I'm not a racist, all right? All right, so we have the highest claim for ancestral action as defined above, whereas an ancestral action is one brought for the recovery of land in which the plaintiff relies on the season or possession of his ancestor, all right? Again, this is relative to being in denial of your ancestors, because a lot of Moors globally have been mistreated or dealing with those things or have worked those things out. Those who have worked those things out definitely need to come forth and share more, I would say. All right, so with a question of the meaning of the word heir in the disposition of land subject to a peculiar custom of inheritance is Gavelcon, the interpretation has sometimes been according to that custom. All right? So you got different customs in different places, but let's just look at this, you know. A custom is a law not written, established by long usage and the consent of our ancestors. If it be universal, it is common law. If particular to this or that place, it is then properly a custom. All right, this is the difference. So when you look at what Noble Drew Ali was saying about his philosophy being universal, it goes back to this, all right, with consent of our ancestors, different things. Now, to go on, you can find that in your Black's Law Dictionary. Custom differs from prescription, which is personal, and the next to the person of the owner of a particular estate, while the other is local and relates to a particular district. Now, mind you that in law, counties, townships, districts, quasi-national domiciles, all of these are quasi-corporations that carved out different borders on a broader national home or national domicile, North America. So these things are not really valid. So when they start going into prescription, you know that's contrary to custom, all right? There's a difference there. And keep in mind that a custom is a law not necessarily written, but established by long usage and the consent of our ancestors. It has to be universal to be a common law, you know what I mean? That's it. And if it's just to this or that place, then it's called prescription, if it's local. All right? So, So an instance of the later occurs where the question is upon the manner of conducting a particular branch of trade at a certain place of the former, where a certain person and his ancestors, or those whose estate he has, have been entitled to a certain advantage or privilege as to have common of pasture in a certain close, or the like. The distinction has thus been expressed. While prescription is the making of a right, custom is the making of a law. All right, you need to know that, right? Not that people didn't, but know that. And again, still relating to our ancestors, those legal rules which come down from ancestors to their descendants remain law so long as they are supported by common consent of these descendants. All right? So back to what Noble Drew Ali said, you know, there's no one who can change the descent nature of man, all right? Going into the next thing. So you are who your foremothers and your forefathers were, without doubt or contradiction. I had to correlate this concept right here. I don't know if you can see this face clearly, but just so you know, it looks kind of dark here. But that's definitely a Moor, northwest of Amexem. And my point here is emphasizing the hatchet, correlating back to chapter 5 of the Circle 7, Holy Quran, whereas it says what? We use the axe to do what? Cut away the knotty, useless, and ungainly parts, right? All right? If you did not know that, remember that, because it's a lesson embodied in this right here is what I'm willing to explain. All right? So this is a noted warrior, which is clearly a Moor with the hatchet, so that's how it made here. And it takes me back to the saying of bury the hatchet. Is an American English idiom meaning to make peace, which goes back to one of the Moor's 5 principles. So when you hear language like that, I'm pretty sure you have before. But again, this is for those who do and don't know. All right? So bury the hatchet is an American English idiom meaning to make peace. The phrase is an allusion to the figurative or literal practice of putting away the tomahawk at the cessation of hostilities among or by quote-unquote Native Americans. And keep in mind, too, that I just want to share this with the family. As a matter of fact, as recent as of yesterday, something in the universe was telling me to search out a brethren that I haven't seen in almost about 10 years. So I started worrying, and I'm like, okay, well, they got websites to see, you know, if people are locked up and things of that nature. Sure enough, the brother is kidnapped, all right? Now, the thing that's interesting is when you search it, they ask you different things such as, you know, sex, male or female, race, right? And under race, they had a multiplicity of options. And what stuck out to me is that The first one was Aboriginal, and then they went into Native Indian, then Native Alaskan. So if there's a such thing as Native Indians, what's up with Aboriginals then? Aren't they the same people? All right? That's what they told you, right? That the Native Indians are the Aboriginal people of America, and, you know, this is who was here first. So correlating that back, I did not put that in there, but I did have that revelation as recent as of yesterday, and I'm definitely honored to share that with the family, that there's a distinction in the jurisdictions that they use. So just because somebody puts Native Indian or Alaskan Native or all of this does not mean that they're under the Aboriginal status, Aboriginal and Indigenous status. Check it out. You can go on New Jersey DOC and .com and put in somebody and they'll ask you all those things. You'll see Aboriginal, Native Indian, and all of these things here. All right, so putting away the tomahawk at the cessation of hostilities among or by Native Americans in the eastern portion of North America, specifically concerning the formation of the Iroquois Confederacy and in Iroquois custom in general. Mind you, I was just talking about custom to make peace between nations. You definitely have the option to put away the tomahawk. I'm not saying be passive and docile. I'm not saying go take somebody's head. I just wanted to emphasize the principle of peace correlating with Moorish American lessons. That's my intention with this particular lesson, all right? So weapons were to be buried or otherwise cached in time of peace. Peace is principle 3 of 5, all right? Now, the hand grip right there, I'm pretty sure you've seen that. You see that on your paperwork, etc. If you study on the RVBey publication, if you just see general signs and symbols, if your eyes are wide open in your travel, you have seen this before. Maybe you made this sort of contract here when you got a job and you agreed that you'll be hired and start on whatever day. Just know that symbology is a contract. You understand what I'm saying to you? That's what it is. It's an agreement. So the law of nations is naturally founded on this principle that different nations are in time of peace to do all the good they can and in time of war as little harm as possible without prejudicing their real interests. All right? The spirit of law, 1748, reference cases on international law principally selected from English and American courts, edited by James Brown Scott. And you're going to see the importance of the distinguishment between English law and American law as we go on. Now, you may have seen this image before, but just beware because, you know, it looks a little wild, but it is what it is. Again, as I was pointing out, that handshake, you can see it right here in this particular picture. And it's titled, you know, Europe supported by Africa and America. All right, you see the Moorish sister here and the Moorish sister there, European in the middle. All right, they have to have support from the Aboriginal indigenous people to do whatever they're trying to do, whether it be a contract, because treaty is a contract. You understand what I'm saying? And when you look at the history, they act like sisters didn't have much to do with it and they was in the back. No, it really wasn't not really like that. You know what I mean? However, that's what reflected here to me, and which I'm definitely glad to share with you all, for those who don't know. But what this picture reminded me of is the unity grip, of course, right here you see between the Moorish sister and the European, and that the law of nations is to regulate the differences which may exist between them in their national capacity. They are in a state of nature, and this picture definitely reflects they're in a state of nature, and must be considered as so many free and independent persons living, and therefore the rules of natural law are applied to them. And again, that's Institutes of American Law, you know what I mean, preliminary book. So the lesson there on nationality. Now, again, you see the grip, the handshake, and in all reality, a treaty is an entire contract. All its articles are dependent and have the force of conditions so that the violation of any one of them is a violation of the whole treaty and renders it avoidable at the option of the party injured. So when they violate, the constitutional law, treaty of peace and friendship, it does not make it on its own merit void, but it's voidable at the options of the injured parties. All right? So when they say things like, oh, we don't honor the treaty of peace and friendship, no, that's not. They can't arbitrarily conclude that. The injured party has to determine that the treaty is off. And that would definitely take national conventions and things of that nature to determine that. So as long as they're taking the oath to the Constitution, the law of the land, that contract still exists. It's still valid, all right? And again, last demonstration I was saying, based off of the Christian cross at the baby's feet with the birth certificate, that it's a clear distinguishment in that treaty between Moors and Christians. So if you wasn't here last time, you probably wonder where I'm coming from with this, but most of you were here. So again, that's why it'll be available. All right. So yeah. Now again, you heard me say this before, but this is a quote from the classics of international law. Whereas, because of that treaty of peace and friendship, the Europeans, the modern Europeans, were admitted into American society and things of that nature with Moors, the Christian society, which was originally considered the modern Europeans, were accepted into Moorish society in the Western Hemisphere. But one thing that correlates with that is this, where Samuel Rachel is giving a review and asks, what is the nature of this law of nations, which a lawgiver may sanction for certain foreigners who subject themselves to some commonwealth or either permanently or up to a given time, or which is even dictated by the indigenous inhabitants themselves, so far as it may suit them to live with foreigners whom they have received under their sway, either permanently or for a given time. The foreigners admitted certainly do not form a nation. And this is what I want to emphasize, is that the United States of America is not a nationality. It's just not a nationality just because they got admitted. So back to what my mother was saying in the beginning is that, you have to understand the difference between your family and these corporations that are operating on your family's ancestral state, specifically North, South, Central America, for Moors in the Western Hemisphere. And definitely I'll give some information about our co-parceners in the Eastern Hemisphere. All right? Now, again, going back to international law, many maxims are merely the statement in short and pithy sentences of principles which claim the assent of man or mankind. These existed before the law, for it has been well observed, nations have been found without laws, none without maxims. All right? Such fragments may be considered fragments of the natural law, which was promulgated at the beginning of the world, such as the indigenous maxim, the greater contains the less, such as the maxim, what is not judicially presented cannot be judicially decided. Other maxims derive their effect from the law and have been adopted after the experience of ages. All right? So all of that goes back to understanding your nationality and birthrights on the level of international law. And when you get into due process of law, maxims are definitely mentioned. And I cannot forget, this is from out of the Bouvier's Concise Encyclopedia of Law, that when you're speaking of maxims, they've been divided into three classes. Number 1, Roman, 2, Roman modified, 3, and indigenous. And that's the quote verbatim under the definition of maxims. Now, the definition is long because there's many maxims, but the fact that they've been divided into Roman, Roman modified, and indigenous, why? Why not Roman, Roman modified, and Asian? Why not Roman, Roman modified, and African? Why not Roman, Roman modified, and Native American or Native Indian, right? Why not? Why just indigenous? Because the indigenous people are all the same all over the planet. That's why. You understand what I'm saying to you? And the Roman Empire has colonized or is really going hard with their operations on North American soil right now as we speak, all right? So, again, you can translate that or correlate that another way, whereas you had the Holy Roman Empire and then you had the Roman Empire, which might be another distinguishment between Roman and Roman modified. Either way, I wouldn't really want to be under any two of those jurisdictions. I'd rather stay in the indigenous there, for sure. Specifically, it makes a lot more sense when you realize that Roman means, municipal means Rome. All of these things are what correlates, all right? And again, understanding that municipal means Rome, here's another reference from the Bouviers, whereas it says the transactions of independent states between each other are governed by other laws than those which municipal courts administer. Such courts have neither the means of deciding what is right nor the power of enforcing any decision which they make. All right, so that's back to the Romans. Oh, and also, just to let you know for the record, like Roman maxims would be like canons, canon laws and things of that nature. Those would be the Roman maxims, Roman and Roman modified. So they're always updating their maxims, and we definitely need to stick to ours. So, you know, when you see certain things, such as a maxim like, again, like I said, here's an indigenous maxim, all right? Omne magis content in C minus, which means the greater contains the less. This same maxim applies to nationality versus tribalism, all right? The greater contains the less. So in consideration of the above indigenous maxim, that's an indigenous maxim, we must acknowledge how this same principle applies to nationality versus tribalism or algebra versus division, whereas a single nation may be so divided as to constitute several states or tribes. You can see Thomas M. Cooley's for that. And also, I wanted to take this enumeration from the Institutes of American Law, where it says the Aborigines or persons of the quote-unquote Indian race. Now, again, this is what I'm emphasizing. The fact that they're making a distinguishment between the Aboriginals or Aborigines or persons of the Indian race. All right, there's a big distinguishment right there. We're not persons of the Indian race, but we are Aboriginals. We are Asiatics. And the Hindustanis or Indians that are really from Asia that are there, they are our brothers and sisters. It's just we're all not Indians. That's the whole point. You know, there's people there that look just like me. There's people amongst us right now who look just like me, but you wouldn't know that they were Hindustani or whatnot. So, and we are here. So, I wanted to emphasize the fact, again, that there's been emphasized differences. You know what I mean? So these are not, in general, citizens of the United States and can exert no political rights, but you can as an Aboriginal. Why? Because Indian race is not the nationality of the Aboriginal people. When you know that nationality determines your political status, while domicile determines your civil status, you do have political rights. If you understand that you're in full life opposed to civil litem mortuus, you do have political rights. But again, I say that those who are subjected to that brand of the Indian race, these are not citizens of the United States, and they have no influential political rights. You know what I mean? And they're not subject to the jurisdiction of the United States. Now, they cannot say the same thing about an Aboriginal who comes in their proper person as a Moor, because it's already been documented for the record between Hillary Clinton, Barack Obama, and George Washington that Moors were the first to recognize the corporation that they call the United States of America, etc. All right? So they cannot ever make that claim about Moors. Is there challenges? Of course there are. You know what I mean? But however, at the same time, there's victories. So there you go. All right? So here's another reference. It says, whereas in its original signification, the word nation denoted those of the same origin who are natives of the same people, although they might live in different countries, right? So again, people say, well, you know, my people is from Libya, and my people are from Egypt, and your people are from Morocco. This is all one nation, even though they live in different territories or what you call countries and things of that nature. You have to keep in mind, these were laid out by Moors that just divided, like, you know what I mean? No different than if you had a state just between you and your sister, for example, right? Y'all would divide up the land amongst yourselves because you're family, right? So you might have 2 gardens. You say, okay, you tend that garden, I tend this garden. All right? Doesn't mean that you're not family because you're working on 2 separate gardens. Y'all still the same family. So I think that's a major aspect to why a lot of people, some people can't see that we're all Moors. You know, that's an awful neglect, if you ask me. An awful, you know, perspective to not be able to understand. But it's great to be in question about it. You know what I mean? To think about it, for it to even be on your mind is a great thing. But to see the unity of how is another way. Is another thing, excuse me. All right, so I already briefly mentioned, you know, the United States being mentioned. I mean, Moors being the first to recognize the United States. You know what I mean? And again, as I mentioned, the family is a society and expands into clusters of families, into tribes and larger societies, collecting into communities, always carrying the habit and necessity of authority and mutual support along with them. And again, that goes right back to what Noble Drew Ali said, link yourself back to the family of nations. And for hundreds of years, this community has been called the family of nations or society of nations. But before the World War, the family of nations rested entirely on the basis of custom. Mind you, I was just talking about customs. So what I'm trying to let you see is that everything correlates, all right? All right, so it rested entirely on the basis of custom and lacked any organization, whatever. The treaties of peace by establishing a league intended to comprise all civilized states and turn the unorganized family of nations into an organized community. And again, that's a book on international law by Lassa Oppenheim and Ronald Roxburgh. All right, check that out. All right, now this is something I was definitely looking forward to share because, like I said, you know, this is just the tip of the iceberg of everything I have in store to share here. But you can check this out. You know what I mean? And again, I'll just let you know right now, again, this was dedicated to my grandfather and all of our ancestors on a larger scale. My grandfather was not a initiated lodge type of mason. He was an operative A1 brickstone mason. Like his building skills with masonry was what's real. Not the initiated lodge type, you know what I mean? They was in the field putting in the work, seriously. So I had to make a few correlations, but my intention is not to sit here and try to teach anybody masonry like that. But I do give reference to a few things because, like I said, my intention is to give back with this book as much information as I can. From all the questions I get asked, all the things I cannot do for other people, I'm trying to put resolutions in the book. You feel what I'm saying? That's where I'm at. So it's something called American Mysteries. Now, Albert Mackey in his lexicon of Freemasonry has a definition of American Mysteries. On page 15 of said book, which reads as follows. Definition of American Mystery. Among many evidences of a former state of civilization among the aborigines of America, which seem to prove their origin from the races that inhabit the Eastern Hemisphere. Okay, this is Masons telling you that they already know that we the same people on both sides, all right? Not the least remarkable is the existence of quote-unquote fraternities bound by mystic ties and claiming like quote-unquote Freemasons to possess an esoteric knowledge which they carefully conceal from all but the initiated. Now, remind yourself that Moors taught Masonry, all right? We taught them Masonry, Freemasonry, etc. They learned that from us during the, that's what we was bringing them out of the Dark Ages and the Renaissance and whatnot. It says DeWitt Clinton was the General Grand High Priest of the United States, all right? Think about that. What is the United States doing with a General Grand High Priest? Is that not a religious corporation? Okay, is this not known? Like, this is known, but certain reference points are not being given to let you know that they really do know this. It's not a secret. It's just certain things we haven't been exposed to. I mean, we can go basic documents, but this is how they talk. All right, it relates on authority of respectable native of a respectable native minister who have received the signs the existence of such society among the Iroquois. All right, so the Iroquois was on that before, you know, the Europeans flooded North America with that. The number of the members was limited to 15, of whom 6 were to be the Seneca of Salamanca, 5 of the Oneidas, 2 of the Cayugas, and 2 of the St. Regis. They claim that their institution has existed from the era of the creation. Now, my thing is this, and don't ever get this confused. I'm not suggesting that anybody join any institution. I'm not making that suggestion. What my intentions are is to give you as much information as I know in this book about your nationality and your birthrights. That's my intentions. Why? Because I've took the time to study, and I see that certain things are not being addressed. There are people with these degrees, but still won't never tell you, like right now. So my thing is I'm not obligated in any of that type of fashion, and I'm going to tell the truth. That's it. So that's what I'm intending to do. All right? Again, going back to the fact that DeWitt Clinton. Now, first, let me ask you, how many people ever heard of DeWitt Clinton? Okay. All right, considerably. But did y'all know he was a general grand high priest of the United States? Why? Why would, if the United States was the land, why would it need a general grand high priest? What type of society needs a general grand high priest? All right, so keep this in mind. All right, United States is not the land. This is a corporation, United States of America, etc. It's not the land. All right? So I go into this aspect of the world being small. I left that particularly small. I used the same image in part 2, but again, correlating different aspects, whereas it shows that everybody knows our existence was in the East and the West. We got to know this. All right? But, you know, therefore we are one nation and it's a small world. Now, I wasn't going to get into this, but this, I had to do it. Whereas there's a reference here that there is no proof that the existence of man is much more recent in America than in the so-called old world. All right? In other words, Moors have been in the Western Hemisphere as long as their existence in the East, and this took me into angelic algebra in the reference book of Soul Knowledge, Book 3, the aphorismata of the Logos. And the aphorismata of the Logos just means maxims of the word. Remember, you heard the sayings such as, you know, the word is God. You're dealing with the element of air. So I felt compelled to share these maxims based off of our unity. And I want to put something beyond dispute at the end of this, whereas in this correlation, the aphorismata of the Logos is laid out on 7 principles, which still you should see your more science in that. It says whatever exists either exists as a whole, as God, or as a part of an emanation of God. Now, if you want another appellation, you could say Brahma, Allah, I'm with you. I understand that. But I'm just quoting this verbatim. Number 2, in the whole as an angel, and my emphasis is on the word angel, unconscious of the whole is an undescended spirit, parted from the whole yet external to the whole, is the law of differentiation. 4, parted from the whole, with the whole, yet external to the whole, is a fallen or descended spirit. 5, parted from the whole, with the whole, yet conscious of the whole, and knowing it has fallen away from, and that it should and can return to the whole, is the law of reascension. Now, mind you, keep in mind that maxim that the greater contains the less. All right, we're talking about the aspect of unity, wholeness, etc. The number 6, that which is parted from the whole and turns again to the whole is the law of true repentance. 7, that which was parted from the whole and has again returned to the whole as a part of the whole, remains so forever as a grand spirit, and is the law of perfect atonement or at one mental. All right, so that was that on there. And I had to put this definition, just in case anybody thought our noble prophet Drew Ali was in fairy tale land when he was telling you about the definition of an angel. This is straight out of a dictionary, all right, 1936 unabridged. There you have it, page 64, your definition of angel. Noun, Latin, angelus, Greek, angelos, means a messenger, all right? Literally a messenger, one employed to communicate news or information from one person to another at a distance. So I respect all Moors who are out there on their angelic missions, putting this word out, putting out literature, information, teaching the people, because that is relative to deific life or deific life, all right? And if you thought Noble Drew Ali was slacking with that very same definition of angel, I just put the picture there just so you can see it for yourself. You could go to question 38 and 39 of the 101s, and sure as we're standing here, the question is, what is an angel? And the answer is, an angel is a thought of Allah manifested in human flesh. All right? That's question 38 from your 101s. Question 39, what are angels used for? And the answer is to carry messages to the four corners of the world, to all the nations. Keep that in mind. If you thought he was just saying that to say that, that's the actual definition of an angel, is a messenger. That's it. So let's take it out of the realm of, fairy tale, you got to have wings type of thing, and understand that we are that in the flesh if you choose to be. But it's about what's your message, you know what I mean? What is your message? So again, real basic, some of this stuff you heard me say before, I have a lot in store. But just getting back to the basic concept of, we clearly took out the aspect of angel being fairy tale-ish and brought it to the earth plane with that reference. But here, this is what you see embodied in the Moorish national flag. We know that Noble Drew Ali said the 5 points represent love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. True indeed. On another level, angels being thought of Allah clothed in human flesh. This is also what's represented. I'm just giving you, reference points to Moorish history and your science back here. Whereas that same 5-pointed star is laid out in this fashion, representing your spirit man is hearing, scent, feeling, seeing, and taste. The objective form of matter. You know how they say the 7 planetary bodies? All right, these 5 planetary bodies represent your 5 senses, and then the sun and the moon being your higher senses of intuition and perception and things. So that's what I wanted to get at with that lesson of angel and what you see embodied on the Moorish American flag, the Moorish flag. And I go into how it applies to everybody all over the world. All right. Now, just back to your question, sister. This is a portrait of a so-called Native American, right? You was mentioning the fact that they're saying that people are Indians, Native Indians, etc. This is us all day. I wish it was a little bit more clear. But you can see in this expression, this is from the 1800s, that's a Moor. You know what I mean? Definitely a Moor, indisputably. You can't contest that. That's definitely a Moor. Same with this sister here. You may have seen that. All right? Now, this is a sister from Arabia, and this is a Moor, or what they call a Native American from the Western Hemisphere. Brothers and sisters. Look exactly alike, etc. So my thing is, we were everywhere first, we were here. All right? So, yeah, there, being as though the sister was from Arabia or whatnot, I just went into a little bit of Moorish history, the 12 tribes. It says, it goes into the fact that who they're calling, or the prehistoric Arabs is what it says here. This is where the Hebrew alphabet was derived from these people. But I also say these were Moors. Noble Drew Ali emphasized this in chapter 47, where he was going in to the fact that all of these are Muslims. He was talking about those of Arabia, natives of San Salvador, Mexico, etc. all of these are Muslims, all right? So, again, as I emphasized before, there's no such thing as a pale-skinned Arab, but it goes into the fact that the 12 tribes of Israel have a mystic relation to certain of the heavenly bodies or to the months of the year. And indeed, I just wanted to emphasize that. You could get into your history of Moorish Empire in Europe on that note, and they go into that and other things. Also, the light of Egypt. Excuse me, can I be a little quiet in the back, please? Excuse me. All right. All right. So, correlating that back to the light of Egypt, volume 1, it goes into the 12 tribes of Israel. Here you see everything laid out. You got it all there. I put them there. And I also put this here. You see my mother laid this out. I had to give this lesson here. But I just wanted to emphasize that it's apparently going backwards, whereas, usually we see Aries here, then Taurus here, then Gemini there, then Cancer here. But here it's apparently going backwards, whereas Aries, the northern constellations are basically the southern constellations in this picture. But my mother explained this before as well. That's simply because it's an elevated perspective. It's the most high perspective looking down, if you will. Also, it's an affirmation that what was said in the Circle 7 about backwards through the ages, masterminds can trace themselves and thus they know. You can see that's still relative to that zodiac, and it correlates with your spirit, man, who you are, what makes up your energies. So that's also a lot to do with your ancestry. The astrology, it's beyond, myth, etc. And I had to, in correlation with that, put this picture here of this sister because, she reminded me of Aquarius. And that's a painting from the 1800s, etc. All right? So in respect to the time frame, this is where we are now. Now, I said all of that to bring me back to how that lesson correlated again back to how when I was in so-called Zion Crossroads, this picture right here that I saw in the lobby, all right, with the sister and the wolf, all right? Now, I just want to be very clear. I am not trying to refer to anybody on the level of animals or anything of that nature. Again, I'm giving you lessons based off of things that I personally saw. So this is what came to mind. This is how it came out and correlated to me. So please keep that in mind. Please take this with a mature perspective. When I'm going in, and this is the only part I'm going to really do that. The rest is going to be a lot of terrestrial history, but this was something that sparked something in me where it says, with this image of the sister and the wolf, it reminded me of the lesson that above all other animals, the wolf is sacred to the planet Mars, and the sign Aries is under the special and peculiar control of this fiery planet. The correspondence is significant. The Hebrew, or the Hebrews, concealed this reference to the planetary nature of Mars by combining the wolf and the ram, the wolf in sheep's clothing, reference light of Egypt. And then, don't ask me why, but this is how I knew I had to put this here to share. I'm in my law dictionary, and I see this definition here, inter canum et lupum, and it says Latin between the dog and the wolf, the twilight, because then the dog seeks his rest and the wolf his prey. Now, family, keep in mind what I'm about to get at is exactly, to me, that's what this picture embodied, all right? You see the sister asleep and the wolf is there, but hold on. All right, so that was out the Black's Law. But I went on to get into the dog star Sirius, whereas the universality of Sirius lore, even the Pawnee tribe of North America and others refer to Sirius as the wolf star, indicates the Sothic mythos may have extremely ancient roots, perhaps as old as the first humans to migrate from Africa. All right, reference Del Chamberlain Vaughn, 1982, when stars came down to Earth. All right. So that picture also reminded me of that history that, look, we have history all over the place. All right. I'm not going to go into that, but I will get into the fact that the definition of magi as entered in the Standard Dictionary of Facts, says the three wise men that followed the star to Bethlehem. The traditional names of the three magi are Melchior, represented as an old man with a long beard offering gold, Jasper, a beardless youth offering frankincense, Keturah, and Balthazar, a Moor who tenders myrrh, specifically like that. And again, that's Standard Dictionary of Facts, going into a bunch of ancient manuscripts, and then go into the fact that what they call the three wise men, etc., that's also symbolic of 3 degrees of masonry, how it's explained here. Whereas it's saying it was an old man with a long beard, that would be like your master mason. And then a beardless youth, that would be your entered apprentice. And the Moor just has no time limit, no time age, no nothing. He's not old, young, anything. It's like an infinite thing, all right? So I correlated that with that. And I just wanted to emphasize that Magi is really a title that belongs to Moors, Magi, Magistrate, etc. All of these things are Moorish titles. That doesn't make them judges because they claim to be magistrates. But I'm just saying there's just about, it's nothing that they utilize that they didn't get from Moors originally. All right? Okay, so my fault. This is a little graphic, but it goes to show how Moors contributed to their own fall. Since the Pequot Asiatics of North America of Moorish descent were a numerous tribe, not a numerous nation, but a numerous tribe, and renowned for their prowess and ferocity. They had early entertained a jealous hatred of the European colonists, and for some time past had harassed them with unprovoked attacks and excited their abhorrence and indignation by the monstrous outrages to which they subjected their captives. Unoffending men, women, and children who had misfortune to fall into the hands of the Pequot tribe of Asiatics of North America, who were of Moorish descent, were scalped and sent back to their friends or put to death with every circumstance of torture or indignity, while the assassins with diabolical glee and derision challenged them to invoke the God of the Christians. Mind you, where we started at with that cross at those babies' feet, the imagery and the birth certificate. Islam. Hold on. All right, I think you're good.
So the scalping of the Indians by the Europeans actually started with them, and the symbolic cutting off the head. What did that represent? Now you have 2 things.
Mm-hmm. Indeed. All right. Well, I'll tell you this: the scalping. All right, that was an embarrassment. More likely you would die. But you see the symbology of that today with people wearing mohawks. All right, it's no coincidence that they're called mohawks for a reason. All right, these people are not necessarily Indians though. Now the chopping of the head, that was just, sometimes it had to happen. People had to go. There was, even to this day, so you still get body parts, bodily organs cut off if you do something wrong. But if you do something, whereas to the community it's irreparable, they would take your head with ease. You know what I mean? If you disrespect it or anything, you know what I mean? Certain places, if you steal today, they'll cut your hand off. You know what I mean? I could have put that image, but it's really graphic. So, I don't know, but for sure. So these are different things that they did, They would scalp them and all types of things from here to Asia. And keep in mind, this really is a part of what they call Asia as well. All right? So, yeah, for sure. All right. And that's just a little scalp dance or whatnot. You see, there's about to go in on the European, bunch of Asiatics of North America. I don't promote violence, but history is ugly sometimes, All right. This is the reason. Hold on, let me see where we at. This is the reason and again, what I'm sharing right now is just the tip of the iceberg of the message that oh my gosh, wow, really? Only got less than an hour left, but my fault. But I was just getting started. I don't know. I think I might make it through. But this is all, again, I promise y'all I will not spoil this read for you all. I have way more information in this. I'm just giving you the preview and explaining certain things of why I had to go in like this. Because, you know, it's one thing to be like, okay, well, you know, let's just talk about all of the good things. Moors did some bad things too. So I couldn't turn my blind eye to that. I'm not trying to promote that. I'm giving a well-rounded perspective. I intentionally took pieces out so I don't spoil the actual read for you. That's for you. But these are things that I wanted to ameliorate before you, you know, get your hands on that. So hold up, my fault. Hold on. So New England, right? And I heavily suggest, because this book helped wake me up heavy, that people get the book Ancient and Modern Britons and study that. Also, HARLEM Clock of Destiny 1 and 2. That's available for you right now. Get that. There's so many messages in there, whereas it will allow you to study world history and have it in the proper context and perspective. You know what I mean? Islam. It's right back there for you right now. All you gotta do is talk to my mom. She got it for you. Islam.
Mike.
Hold on. You said what was the first book? Yeah. Excuse me. Ancient and Modern Britons. There's some references I had to go in on from there, and you will see why. You'll definitely see why. Okay, so it correlates big to North American land, whereas if you remember the colonists that first came over, well, not the first, but when they started coming heavy with the wave, and they was on that fight Great Britain wave, all right, you got to keep in mind England was basically like the Roman takeover. If we're not talking New England, first look at England, right? Because you got ancient and modern perspectives that's going on. So when you're talking ancient and modern, and we look at where we're at today, modernly they call a certain part of North America New England. Is it? Absolutely not. It has nothing. It's not England. This is American soil. But what I'm saying is you have to understand correlations to your history from ancient times to modern times. So that's why I go in there. Trust me, that's just the tip of the iceberg, like I say. You will see why I went in on that by the end of the book. But for sure, it goes in, if anybody was confused, certainly goes in on the difference between Moors and Christians, where it talks about these modern Europeans, early colonists of New England, and the natives. These unfortunate gentlemen were intercepted by 700 Moors, with whom they fought for the space of 4 hours to not only they too, but Captain Sharp and 51 Christians more lay dead upon the place. And again, that at Woodcocks, 10 miles from Seconch, on the 16th May, was a little skirmish betwixt, as they say, Moors and Christians. News from New England, London, 1676. So I'm saying this for those who don't understand. When we say, you know, we're not Christians or, you know, we're not a part of that religion, this is documented fact that you really cannot be a Christian. Like, you can believe in whatever you want, but in the political origins, Christian is not what it is. And remind you, I told you I would be going in on that because of that image that I saw with the baby dolls. So keep that in mind. I'm not just randomly talking. Now, I do want to share this here. And again, I cut some things out. All right? Now, excuse me. Oh, pardon. All right. So remind you, I was in the hotel, and this was another picture that was on the wall. It seems really like, another thing that was on the wall. It's not even a picture. It's something I reflected on and had to formulate a lesson based off of what I reflected on, because everything that I saw in there during that time when I reflected back on it, everything had a lesson in it for me. You know what I mean? And my intention, again, is to share it with you. So my thing is this. I already went in on the papoose boards that was on the wall, the baby dolls with the birth certificate, Christian cross. I went in on the mask, that correlating with person, in fact, in law, etc. And, excuse me, I took this angle with these spoons, all right? So these big spoons, because prior to this, I was going into pottery and things of that nature. But these spoons, needless to say, it reminded me of food, right? That was a common analysis, right? Spoons, eating, but also the fact that they were so big, I emphatically thought of community, unity, things of that nature. People were eating together. One of those spoons is as big as a bowl for a single person themselves. So it's not like some small spoon or anything. I'm just telling you, this is what stood out to me. So I said, well, what does this mean? How do I relate this, right? Had to do it with the painting here. This is an old painting. You see the sister, she's serving trays, et cetera, whatnot. If you can see clearer, excuse me, this is definitely a Moorish sister. If you look real close at her chain, she got the hand of Fatima right here on the pendant and things of that nature. And, excuse me, you see her headdress is Moorish. So first and foremost, it related to me with that particular painting. These spoons stood out to me so well, they stood out to me as well, whereas because of these spoons, I would like to correlate an ancestor who was a cook and a chef. However, I would like to take note, the big size of the spoons indicate they may have been used for a very large community, whereas one spoon is actually the size of a bowl. However, these spoons are analogous to the sister on the left, and the lessons ameliorated subsequently, herein, further substantiate my analysis relative to Moorish history. And there you go, first and foremost, like I said, I'm not trying to change anybody's religion, but with those spoons, the first lesson I thought of, besides the sister there, was Matthew 4:4, where it says, but he answered and said, it is written, man shall not live by bread alone, but by every word that proceedeth out the mouth of God. Remind you, I'm on the theme of food and correlating this ancestor here. All right, so this was a Moor who was a servant who lived at Mount Vernon, George Washington's Virginia plantation on the Potomac River. He was the head cook at the mansion in the 1780s, cooking for the Washington family and their guests. In 1790, President Washington brought him to Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, which is really North America, but was then the national capital, to cook in the kitchen of the president's house. He escaped to freedom from Mount Vernon in 1797 and later was legally manumitted under the terms of Washington's will. And while I was on the subject of food and eating, you already know the slogan, having hot sauce in the blood. That refers to Aboriginal roots of what is now called Louisiana or Gulf of Mexico or Amexem, etc. And all due respect to the necessity of eating, cooking, however, this serves as an analysis of the subject of the menu of food for Aboriginals as laid down in Genesis 1:26 through 31. And not just for the text belief purpose is the concept imperative. However, the fruits and vegetables are imperative for electronic nourishment. All right. While I was on the subject of food, I went into a whole nother thing you will see in the book as far as the table spread. But this is what stood out to me still. This is a lesson I correlated with the fact, first and foremost, the chef hat is definitely symbolic of a fez. Absolutely symbolic of a fez, right? And here I put this picture of the Moor here to correlate with that. Now again, if you really look at this picture of this Moor here and the garments here, as you see certain masons use, etc., it's kind of interesting because it's clear that the chef hat in the Moorish crown or fez is symbolic. But one of the things that stood out in this picture to me, still all relating with food, is that this particular Moor has on an apron. You know what I mean? And I thought about it later. I'm like, all right, well, this picture embodies a lot, whereas this Moor has on an apron, a fez, talking about a chef based off of the spoons on the wall. And it looks like a dress, right? But it's actually an apron. It's an apron. It's just a different type. You see the Masons use this kind, but still in all, it would be considered an apron dress. I'm not suggesting people dress like that. Don't get me wrong. Please don't get me wrong. I'm not saying go get you one of these. No. I'm telling you, I'm sharing with you what was recollected to my mind when I looked at these pictures, because the title of this picture is a Greek Moor. You know what I mean? That's what this means here. So I didn't want to leave out any aspects of just giving information of Moorish history. I do not support any type of unisex ideology type of thing. I just was pointing out that, okay, this is an apron. That's an apron. Okay, the fez and the chef hat, and the only reason I went in like this is because, like I said, this is what was reminded to me from those spoons on the wall. So that was the lesson embodied in that. And you could take it or leave it. But also the fact that I was talking about food and chefs, all right, with our Moorish brethren who was around during the times of George Washington and whatnot, I felt it was really interesting that the word chef is a derivative of chief. This is Moorish history we need to know. And I felt that was a proper way to segue that lesson as far as the chef, the word chef being a derivative of chief, and chief being a derivative of sheik. I didn't feel as though it would hurt to correlate that lesson, and I hope you walk away with something from that. There you go, chef d'oeuvre, meaning a masterpiece as in art, literature, etc. Reference Webster's. Now, another thing that stood out to me, all right, about the spoons on the wall, because what I need you to understand is I'm giving you reflections from my past, all right? But I'm going to get to that, you know what I mean? Because when we think of certain things that have been jacked, you know, certain things that have been kept secret, Noble Drew Ali said he was taking the cover off of all secret societies. He methodically did it. And, you know, to be able to do that is an honorable thing without any of those obligations. So that was a blueprint, a pattern. Give up that information y'all keeping in your back pocket. You know what I mean? Wonder why nothing happening. Give it up. I said I would like to take this opportunity to emphasize for my brothers and sisters who went to culinary arts school. I acknowledge you all here. To the mothers who this still comes from natural instinct and lessons from their grandmothers, honest to you all the most. However, I would like to correlate a lesson relative to culinary arts, school and college, all right? Still all based off of those spoons on the wall. Definition of college: an organized assembly or collection of persons established by law and empowered to cooperate for the performance of some special function or for the promotion of some common object, which may be educational, political, ecclesiastical, or scientific in its character. All right, that's the definition of a college. This is out your Black's Law. It says the assemblage of the cardinals at Rome is called the college. So for the United States, the body of presidential electors is called the Electoral College. All right? Now, I was thinking of that lesson correlative to what we were talking about, religion and where this is going to go in conjunction with those spoons on the wall, because I know a lot of brothers and sisters who go to school, who go to culinary arts school, that was dedicated for them. Pardon me if I miss you. No disrespect, but I think this is what Noble Drew Ali was talking about via religious controversy document when he was going into a fool being trained to jump through the hoop. And the longer he stays in the school, the more he will defend his jumping. I mean, we have already unveiled the fact that the United States had a general grand high priest. So was he speaking in the context of religious cardinals correlating with Rome when he was talking about going to these schools and staying in there long enough. Now, again, you can research this out, all right, correlating still with the spoons on the wall. I've had a revelation, all right, that there is a certain aspect, and again, don't get me confused. Like I told you last time, my only intention is to give you as much information about Moorish heritage and history as possible, all right, and to let you know a few things you may not know, to be aware, all right. So what I found out is that they have a inferior degree that they call the fork and knife degree among Masons. That's for those who don't take their meetings serious, but show up to the banquet and things of that nature to eat food, and they don't take whatever they're into serious. I'm not saying that applies to us. I'm just saying the concept of it is pretty universal. But I'll explain exactly why this meant so much to me in one moment, so that you really can stay with me on where I'm going with this. All right. So I'm gonna leave that there, right? Fork and knife. Keep that in mind. This is another image. And trust me, there's things missing from right here intentionally. But this was another image that I had a visual of sitting in a place called Zion Crossroads, my grandfather's funeral. All right. Now, this picture is very symbolic. You have a beautiful Aboriginal sister with the artist imitating with her foot in the water, all right? And one shoe is on. Those shoes mean something, but you'll see that later. All right? So she has one foot in the water and one shoe on. And, again, this reminded me of a few things. Calling attention to the image of the sister on the right, whereas one of her shoes are off and her foot in the water. It looks like the same mukluk shoes on display. All right, that calls to memory the two words, the path, yet it is an anamnesis or reminds me of chapter 4, number 18, Moorish Holy Quran of the Moorish Holy Temple of Science. Also, it reminds me of John 13:10, whereas, Yahshua said to him, he that is washed need not save to wash his feet, but is clean every whit, and ye are clean, but not all. Now, the reason I put that there is because the sister had her foot in the water, etc. So I say, just a disclaimer, that reference is not asserted to promote ecclesia. All right, and if you don't know, that's just filthiness or dirtiness. That reference isn't to just say, just wash your feet because you're a clean Moor. No, I'm not saying that. I'm just giving you what came to mind. I assert that in conjunction with the fact, the origins of the Bible are not Christian, which we will analyze, you know what I mean, and with correlative references, I took some out there. All right, a number of ancient manuscripts were brought to light in which many sayings were found relative to several countries formerly seen or conjectured to exist in the Atlantic Ocean. That would be Atlantis, reference pictorial history of America and whatnot. So, mind you, on the theme of washing, you've all seen this picture before, right? How many people never saw this picture? Y'all saw this picture before, right? I'm pretty sure. Okay. All right. Well, if you did, it's very common. I trust as well. Well, it's a few of them on RVBey publications, with the bath concept. But let me get to what I'm getting at here with this concept. All right. We see the Moorish sister washing up a European, right? Definition of al-hama, the name of various towns of Spain from the Arabic al and hamiyat, meaning a warm bath. The most important is about 15 miles from Granada, and its mineral waters were in much request among the Moors, who drew large revenue from the springs. Reference the New American Encyclopedia, a popular dictionary, that was published 1868, all right, volume 8. This being great, but the image on the left definitely correlates with a lesson that Noble Drew Ali left, right, about white meaning purity, purity meaning God, and God meaning ruler of the land, all right? The 16,000 looms of Seville soon dwindled to a fifth of their ancient number. The arts and industries of Toledo and Almeria faded into insignificance. The very vast public buildings of equal ornament and use were destroyed because cleanliness savored too strong of rank infidelity. Reference the story of the Moors in Spain by Stanley Lane Poole, preface. All right, now this is why I felt imperative to take this angle. You see this sign here where it says it's the HARLEM, Atlantic City, etc., right? Okay. Now, question, Noble Drew Ali says, will you define white? And he says, yes, white means purity, purity means God, God means ruler of the land. Again, this is a multi-dimensional statement, made by Noble Drew Ali, that white means purity, purity means God, and God means ruler of the land, correlating with the image of the sister with 1 foot in the water, John 13:10. If it was not for me already having a lesson that white means purity, this sign will not have any substantial meaning. All right? To me, with this lesson, Moors, Americans who have already studied the 101 questions asked and answered by Noble Drew Ali will sincerely grasp this lesson. The analysis of that sign, of the sign, shall truly serve as an analysis of Noble Drew Ali lessons to Moors who think they are Negro, black, color, Indian, African American, etc. If you feel confused about this lesson, about the word black and white by the end of this correlation, then the lesson still serves its purpose because you need to be thinking about this. You should be confused or get clear real fast if you think you Negro, black, colored, etc. So this is the same sign, right? It says, here's the HARLEM, but you see there's a lot of fine print down here, so I basically chopped that and blew it up so that you can analyze for yourself what was particularly embodied in this. Now, going back to that concept of the knife and fork, this was actually at a restaurant called that, all right? So it stood out to me, all right? European and American plan seawater bass, reduction in rates. We see a clear distinguishment here, right? The American plan and the European plan, right? All right, the American plan has single rooms with running water. The American plan has double rooms with running water. American plan double rooms with sea bass. Why does the Europeans have no types of bass over here? If white means purity, purity means God, and God means ruler of the land, this is a classic case of them not being white people, if it's dealing with purity. And Moors gave them running water centuries before, even in Spain. So when I saw this particular sign, and even when I actually showed this to Anaid a while ago, and that was the first thing she picked up on, she was like, oh, the Europeans don't have any running water. I was like, yeah, I'm not surprised. But what it goes to show is that there's a clear distinguishment between Americans and Europeans, all right? Americans are the aboriginal or various copper-colored complexion natives, and you know that the modern Europeans are the pale people or the black people, all right? If you missed that lesson, then that's what it is. Also, I want to get into this at a later part, Lake Hopatcong, which goes back into a couple of matrilineal aspects. But yeah, I just wanted to say if God means ruler of the land, I think only the gods would have had the ability to make running water to their habitats, if you will, or to their shelters or homes. That's what gods would do. They would do good and establish running water. European plan, no running water. So you know they couldn't have been the rulers of the land, but yet foreigners got running waters? No, that's because the Americans, the copper complexion people, are the rulers of the land. They are the gods. They knew the earth and had running water before the Europeans ever planned to have a room over here, all right? That's the lesson you can take from that. European and American plan seawater bass. White means purity, purity means God, God means ruler of the land. Has nothing to do with skin complexion. Has nothing to do with skin complexion. It's a way of living almost, all right? So there you go. Again, you got the definition of American, in case anybody didn't know. And then because I told you at first I wasn't going to go in on black and white. But when I saw that sign, I said, okay, this is the way I will do it because, like I said, man, we're not going to keep saying the same thing over and over again. I'm saying it a different way because it's a multi-dimensional statement, all right, that white means purity, purity means God, but slave-minded people, as soon as you say something about white, they automatically attach the European to it, not understanding or having respect for words. So with that being the case, we're coming out of that mind state, and if you're going to stay in that mind state, understanding that black and white doesn't describe Moors or Europeans, well, black definitely in its original context goes back to the Europeans. Proof is here. But what I'm saying is the concept of them just being white, this is where they get the concept of baptism from, you know what I mean? And all of this correlative to quote-unquote Christianity and things of that nature has nothing to do with their skin complexion. And again, you know, like I said, with this particular sign, you can see clearly that the gods and the rulers of the land had running water. And we're talking right here in North America. We're not really even talking about just Spain alone. You know what I mean? As far as purity and cleanliness and really being gods of the land, laying down irrigation systems and things of that nature. Why wouldn't the Europeans have that? You see it. You know what I mean? No running water nowhere except the last one, the double rooms. But the Moors had running water for the single, the double, and then if you got the big double room, you got it with the sea bath. So these are different things that we've achieved right here on this land. All right, well, let me see. Excuse me. Hold up. My fault. All right, so I'm going to start winding this down. I wanted to get at that, and again, that was one of the main things I want to emphasize. There's a lot. I'm really not going to be able to get into all of it, but, you know, being clean, white meaning purity, it definitely goes back to the concept of clean hands, unclean hands, washing, because like I said, it's a multi-dimensional statement. So if you're just taking the fact that, you know, white, you know, we was originally white, like it has implications. It has actions that go with it. And I'm not saying don't be yourself. I'm just saying understand what that means in law too, not just the fact that we have running water and they didn't. When you talk about white in law, you get into, you know, clean hands, unclean hands, etc. The mythologies that go with that and things of that nature. Where it says definition of unclean hands principle that one who has unclean hands is not entitled to relief and equity. All right. Now, we know it's about law, but I definitely will, like I said, I'm not spoiling anything because I have so much more for you. This is just a segue. So the unclean hands aspect still correlates with white. Surah 28, Al-Qasr number 32, it's all symbolic of being white and having clean hands, where it says move your hand into your bosom and it will come forth white without stain or harm, and draw your hand close to your side to guard against fear, things of that nature. This is still dealing with the concept of cleanliness, godliness in the 101s and things of that nature. All right? And also, chapter 4, number 18 says, and so when you make men know that sins are washed by purity and life, a symbolic rite may be introduced. That was Noble Drew Ali's lessons. And David McRitchie here, he says, to regard ourselves in the mass as white people, except in a comparative degree, is quite a mistake. Reference the page before chapter 1 if you look at David McRitchie's Ancient and Modern Britons, etc. And let me see. Okay, yeah, definitely, you know, basic free white persons, etc. You know, it also goes back to what Noble Drew Ali was saying, where he said, we as a pure and clean nation, and again he said white means purity, purity means God, all right? So when he said we as a pure and clean nation do not wish to amalgamate with the pale-skinned nations of Europe, you have to remember that these Europeans brought a lot of diseases to the Asiatics, smallpox, things of that nature. So they represented a culture that was black, that was death and destruction when they came. So when he said we as a pure and clean nation, was he speaking in the context, okay, we don't want to be infected by diseases that these pale-skinned nations of Europe, not these white-skinned people of Europe, he said pale-skinned nations of Europe, all right? It's an emphasis on that. It correlates that there were, in fact, dark-skinned people of Europe as well. If not, why would he make the specific distinction of pale-skinned nations of Europe? Or was it the filthy disease they brought, like measles, smallpox, etc.? And there you go. That's some more, Wazir in Europe and things of that nature. All right, and then just basic stuff going into the 11th century. But I say this, and this is a quote from Stanley Lane Poole. It says, in literature on Africa, Africans are commonly identified in two groups, one progressive, the other backward. The progressive peoples are called Hamites, Cushites, and Moors, etc., whereas the backward people are called Negroes. The word Negro comes from the Latin word nigger, meaning black. Again, that's Stanley Lane Poole in his introduction. I had to quote that because that was of significance. The progressive peoples are called Hamites, Cushites, Moors, etc., and the backward people are called Negroes. Negro and black mean the same thing. So there you go for everybody who thinks, Black Power, African movement concept. That's dead. You know what I mean? You can't go there with that. You know what I mean? They're not respecting that. Never have. Never have. So there you go. Again, definition of black. I just took the screenshot of the whole thing. You already know it means pale. All right? Greek, bleach, Dutch, bleak, Danish, blade, pale. That's what it means. And I was inspired to correlate this lesson from a specific artist where I was thinking, how can I get this message to this artist about us not being black? And then I thought, well, any painter, color means anything painted, stained, varnished, or dyed. So a painter could particularly relate to this lesson that when you mix black and white, it usually causes a gray area, all right? And when we speak of gray areas, it means, a subject or problem that people do not know how to deal with because there are no clear rules. The legal difference between negligence and recklessness is a bit of a gray area. So that lesson was formulated from, because you heard the saying, you don't meet anybody, like you meet everybody for a reason. You can learn or teach anybody something. And again, that correlates with this maxim, sensus verborum est anima legis, which means the meaning of words is the spirit of the law. And I think I'm about to tap out because I know I'm not going to get through everything I want to share. But I'm going to leave this at that, and I leave the read for you. But what I wanted to show, again, I really have a whole lot more to share. It was just about to turn up, but I was going to leave y'all with this. When you see these stained glass windows, when you get to this part, really look. Well, first, let me ask you, do you see the Moor in that picture? Can you see the Moor in that picture? Do you want me to outline it for you? You see that? You see the bowl? All right. Okay, look here, right? You see like the halo? Okay, this is the head. All right, I'm outlining the upper body and the arms. All right, and I knew this would be kind of hard to see because of the pattern of the stained glass window. But you see the hand here? All right, that's the hand. All right, so they draped in Moorish loose garments and things of that nature. And just in case you thought it's a hoax, you can see the feet here, right? All right, so there you go. I would just say when you look at that part, please pay close attention so you don't miss things. See the details. And with that being said, family, you will, hold on, pardon me, where we at? Okay, we have about 15 minutes left. I want to say that I will be back with the book. I probably won't be able to do a follow-up maybe until after June, maybe July or something like that. Because, not really, because, we got 1 week this month and then the next week. Oh, is it 5 weeks in May?
I think we have
2 weeks? Okay.
Yeah, if you want to finish it,
if you don't want to finish it.
All right. Cool. Thank you.
Because going into the family 30 because of what back to back. So that's why you do have 5 money, 3 money.
Okay.
With Rick and Richard, we'll have 8.
Okay.
And this one you got. Because it's the last one next. Yeah. All right. So the next day will be the 3rd Wednesday, and we'll be here. Meaning that 3rd Wednesday a month. Yes. For May. We'll be here next Wednesday. So the thing is, we want to finish next Wednesday.
Okay. So yeah, we'll see what's good. Oh, another thing, it was a lot I was gonna put in this book, but I say this, I'm not gonna put this particular thing in, but I have to go back to the Beaver Wars I was explaining when I thought about it. While I was down there in what they call Zion Crossroads, North America, I met a lot of family and everything meant something to me. Everything meant something to me. The fact that one of the family members that I've met, her last appellation was Beavers, and I was thinking about all of this history that I picked up or correlated while I was down there, meant something, and I was explaining that people got different names from different wars, different battles, different property brands. And there's a such thing in North America that's called the Beaver Wars. So I wanted to get into that a little bit. And also, I will always say, in case I don't say anything else, always follow your intuition. Always follow your intuition, all right? Because while I was at this place, staying at this, where I got a lot of these pictures from, I had came downstairs with a family member. And when I came downstairs in this same lobby that all of this was happening in, the ancestors was definitely walking with me. I saw the sister at the check-in counter. The sister was beautiful, beautiful. And for a second, my lower self kicked in, and I was like, oh, nah. Something was like, Miz, yo, don't do it. Don't do it. Like, just leave it alone. This is what the spirit was telling me. I'm serious, man. This is what the spirit was telling me. Like, no, just don't. So all I could do was speak. Her and her mom was there. I said, okay. Now, mind you, I'm there for a funeral. So, the beauty of the sister was amazing, right? So I'm like, damn, why would, like, the energy was like, no, so hard. Like, why would it be like that? So I'm like, damn, but I'm still there, and I'm thinking, like, yo, this sister is beautiful. The next day was the funeral, right? Now, mind you, I saw her and her mom in the lobby. I'm in the funeral. Guess who comes walking in the funeral? The sister who was at the counter, who I'm looking at like, you know what I mean? Come to find out that was my cousin, and basically that's why the spirit was saying don't do it. You know what I mean? Listen to your intuition, get to know people, because you never know if you get that instinct, you know what I mean? Exactly. If you get that instinct or that intuition, listen to it, fam, because that would have been ugly. I would have felt dirty. You know what I'm saying? Like, dirty, but it was shocking when I looked up and seen that they were going to the same funeral that I was. This was my family, but it made it easier for us to socialize. So we chilled out, we all chilled, and that's why I say when we say family is government, always start with your family first. Know your peoples, you know what I mean? Even if you can't stay in contact with everybody, try to, you know what I mean, know your people, you know what I mean? And think about what attracts you to people, because the only attraction I was really seeing was the fact that I saw my family in it, literally, and didn't know it, you know what I'm saying? So, yeah, for sure. With that being said, family, I thank you all for your attention tonight. Indeed. And for sure, we'll be back next week with a lot more info, a lot more to discuss. But again, my main thing is, one of the things I think we can all learn from this book is being not just taught how to think, but how to perceive certain things, you know what I mean, and convert that into lessons, because 5 years ago, 10 years ago, I would have just walked past all of this like nothing ever happened, like, oh, it just looks nice. But no, there was certain lessons. And again, this is just the tip of the iceberg. But this is what I wanted to explain. The rest of the book would be really fun to read. I felt like I had to do this because these were parts that deserved a little bit more explanation. So, and again, certain things are not just like, I took certain parts out so I don't spoil the read for you. You got the preview parts, and that's what I really wanted to get off and explain, is how certain things came about, but the rest of the book is self-explanatory, very fun to read, very informational, and very enlightening. But I knew that this deserved a little explanation, and I had to come back and do it here amongst the Manhattan Island class family, Northwest Amexem. So, again, I appreciate you all, and I will be seeing you all again. Islam. Oh, yeah, I definitely did. My fault. Is there any question? Okay, one more. Yeah. Yeah. Islam.
Mm-hmm. Your lecture's beautiful, first over.
Thank you, sis. Thank you.
I was interested, it's so interesting point that you brought up, like, because I was browsing through the internet and came across a book, I forgot the author's name, for how the Irish became white. And you said white is not the pigmentation, it has to do with character.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so they had an expert on books, and and also in Ireland in the age of enlightenment, when our ancestors were there in Ireland, they got along very well with individuals that are called Irish, and European Irish. And there was no distinction. They got along very well. You know what I'm saying? Only when they became disconnected for whatever reason, that the gender, the racism started. You know what I'm saying? Especially when the Irish came over here and settled in North America.
Right. Well, yeah, for sure. And that's the thing, though. The Irish, when you go back and do the history of Ireland, which is really Hibernia, those were Moors.
Yeah.
They're originally Moors. They call them the wild Irish, and all of these things here. And what is it? Is it Dub Glasses? Something like that. Wild Scots of Galloway and all of this here. You're talking about Moors. So originally, and this is what I'm saying, again, you should get your information like Clocks of Destiny 1 and 2. So you can see that, all right, Moors were ruling the entire land of the chain of which they call Europe, which is another thing as far as understanding why we are Asiatics in fact. All right, the original people of Europe were Moors. But then when you know the true geography, you know that Europe is really a part of Asia. All right, no different than how they try to separate the fictitious borders between what they call in Canada and the United States. Well, geography tells you that all of that is North America. So you speaking of Canada and United States as if they're different things. Well, no, they're all North America. The same concept applies with Europe and the rest of Asia, the Asiatics. So, yes, we are Asiatics, you know what I mean? And they're modern Europeans. So this is the difference. You know that we were actually ruling all up and through Europe, all in the Americas, what they call Africa, Asia, etc. And that's really what it boils down to. But again, like I said, that book, Ancient and Modern Britons, you'll get a lot of revelations in that. That should be, I just personally think, it's a standard in every Moor's house, no different than toilet tissue is, no different than having a bathroom is. It's a standard, If you're going to take your information serious, you declare your nationality, know your history a little bit too. You know what I mean? Study these things because I know that, thank you. Studying helped me pierce a lot of the illusions whereas I was comfortable. Once I was like, okay, I've been taught this, but now I also know that you know this. You're not ever going to tell me who I'm not. You know what I mean? And that's just what it boils down to. So I suggest get your hands on all things relative to law, history. Again, there'll be a lot of references in here. It's just like a compilation directory type of thing for you to gain more information. So, for sure, the original Irish were Moors, Hibernians, etc. And absolutely.
This is why you said in all four corners of the earth, we are the Aboriginal people of civilization and civilization principles, and if we should accept that, we should stop having divisions about, I'm a this family, I'm a this, and you said someone mentioned to show you what that is. Well, how do I prove? It doesn't interfere with the good conversation that Egyptians are more. How do you prove it? Where is it written? More because the way that you know that Egyptians are not. Yes. Right.
Yeah. My fault.
I'm listening to your it is. It's imperative. The question was, how do I prove? Because they have friends that are actually Egyptologists or whatever like that. Supposedly, which you say no. It's right in the book here. They know.
Mm-hmm.
So the thing is, but it's all because we want to call ourselves the national anthem. So the question is the word love, which a lot of people put aside and is how do you prove that Egyptians are more? Where is the source written at that Egyptians are more? That word more. That's another thing we're going to do. I don't know what are they Europeans? Are the Egyptians Europeans? No. Then we're all we're the first Moor means first navigators.
Any dark skin. I mean, it's not even complicated. When you realize, okay, Moor means any dark skinned person. I just was explaining how nations can be broken up into tribes. You understand what I'm saying? Their concept of a nation is just one specific territory. This is why I'm even doing this, is because that concept is civil little mortus in itself. Whereas Moors were all over the planet before we thought to name anything. You feel what I'm saying? But then it was like, okay, you got to have your own yard for these purposes, this, that, and the third.
No, what is What is the affirmation of the brother? I keep forgetting what the alphabet typically.
Cadmus. Yeah.
A lot of people say Moor is the Greek name that started with Greek. Wait a minute. I'm more the alphabet to the Greek.
Yeah.
We got to stop thinking like that.
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Your picture of the Moor in the.
I was about to say, you was paying attention. That's why I really like your style. You peeped that. That was the Greek Moor. You saw that. That's what I'm saying. Well said.
And allow other people to tell us things that, hey, this is how you know. This is how you know. I'm going to tell you know what? Tell me if I'm going to tell you the secret on how you know. Those are here, those are here. Whenever someone has told you that most of us get to eat, be honest with yourself. Be honest with yourself. It don't really sit quite right with you, and that means it's not right. And the other part is when you know you got the right path and the right information, you know you have the right path and the right information. And you can stand on it, and you can tell why you said what you said, know what you know, believe what you say you believe, because you have the information behind it to back it. But if you're just saying it because somebody told you, a lot of our people do, well, I have the information behind it to back it, or being sure of it, then you're not studied enough yet for your own self, let alone for others. That's it, that's all. Yes. Hold on, let me put it in mind.
Just like you were saying, this is not deep, it's not hard at all.
No.
Right.
It's a crash thing.
Mhm.
It come from? Where library?
Stuyvesant.
Stuyvesant. Yeah.
High school level.
High school.
Library.
Mhm.
High school library.
Yeah.
It has everything in there.
And you know what?
No.
But if you don't have the right content with
this
that information, you would miss it, correct?
Right.
Man.
Yeah, what were you going to ask?
This is a perfect example of what they say, one man's trash is another man's jewels, another man's treasures. But
One
that's
man's flow is another man's field.
yeah, for sure, man, for sure. So again, this information is all around, but look at what he said. It's so basic. Like this is in the high school library, was in the high school library. But hold on, though. How many of us knew that in that same high school library was a basic high school dictionary that had the definition of black or more in it, breaking down the fact that black is an adjective and more is the noun. That was on the high school shelves too. But did they teach us that? No. You know what I mean? No, they didn't go in on that. We missed that one. So that's what I'm saying. There's a lot of things where we got to just get back to basics, like really basic level stuff. Islam?
On our way up here, weren't we listening to this European saying that when he went into the court, he said that his right to travel is so basic that there's no need to even have discussion about it.
And yeah, no, real talk though. And it is. And big acknowledgement to Cujo Canaan Moor. Check out his channel within the past couple of days. He has a great contrast example of the right to travel versus emotions and things of that nature. So I just wanted to do that. Excuse me. Canaan Moors, Cujo Awal Canaan Moors. Just type in right to travel. No, you good.
We're going to try to play that video. Break it down real quick. We just got this.
The joint is like an hour long, though.
Oh, no, not that video.
Which video? Oh, you're trying to go in like that. Gotcha. Does this have sound, though?
Can you hear that? How many of you heard the music from She did that, right? Now, a lot of people, they'll hear my group on here, that it's from a lecture that I did. And
yeah, it is on here.
No, it's not about bullshit.
Hold on, all I got to do.
I was very honored by that. Like, that's your free mindset stuff. Whatever you got your creative.
You got the YouTube.
Yeah, talking about like that. That usually runs the instructions. And these days, times right now, you've heard about the coming from South America, because they took them out because their corporations are when they want to live that when they realize that they need to continue to you better be ready to know how to exist.
YouTube.
Do I got to do that, or can I go through here? I got it up right now. Do I got to go back to all of that?
Got stuff running.
That's the law. So there's no if you will.
Where's the YouTube at? There was a problem with YouTube.
Really? How many people did that?
YouTube.
Okay.
How many have been?
How many apps do you have on?
But I don't know. This shit is really slow.
That's on it.
The school. Video is done in the home in the school. That's where the video is.
Oh shit, my fault. I ain't gonna hit that one. Oh, I'm still on. Oh, let me mute. The school, get it all, the passion. Did you see that?
It's not complicated. They're not family. You decide to play for them and the state can have a political jurisdiction for themselves. How many more years? You can't only talk about that and you or what? And it's a state, correct? So in your interest in the state, how is it possible that they have claims on your interest in the state? And you have to do the farmer in your own land.
Mm-hmm.
And how are you supposed to go get nationalized in your own shit? It doesn't make sense. It's for aliens. You're not an alien on your own interest in the state. They are. They are. Well, that's what they're trying to do with the vaccine. That's it, in other words. Away and bring them back and put them back into slavery. You got some other records look like some countries out into mental slavery because they said that was some of your own who keep that in slavery. So now you go there, pay a membership fee, be a member of something, act like someone wants to speak for you when you need to speak for yourself. But when someone says here's the information, basically it's free to go check it out for yourself. You don't want to be a party to that because you do not really want to free yourself. You need somebody who's national and you don't want to go say it again. So, they're not coming back to whatever we know. So they have your name. I feel like really good. Yeah, we got to hold that.
Did you hear me? Huh?
You know, with history and, you know, with integration, you know, the people have to be with the so-called white people or whatever. So
I'm hoping it's going on because I can't hear you.
So, you know, all that consideration stuff with the segregation.
That's correct. Exactly. You got to know your own belief. So the peace for humanity, the peace is already done. The peace documented in the Constitution for the land laid down for others. It's done already. We keep speaking to the peace is already there.
We got 2 minutes.
It's worth it.
2 minutes. Did you, new people? New people?
We give you any notes to get that to me? I'm having a little issue.
Oh, that one in the house. That's right.
Islam. Islam. Bow on the left, two on the right, repeat after me. Allah, Father of the universe. Father of love. Truth. Peace. Freedom. And justice. Allah is my protector. God and my salvation. Night and by day. Through his holy prophet, Ali, also known as Sheikh Sharif Abdul Ali.
Our problem is lack of knowledge and the intended deceit and trickery done, because even those who read the biblioteca that you call the Bible says he shall fool even the most believe. So even those who think they're highly educated and this and that, they've been fooled. That's it. It's not really complicated.
It's the miseducation of the Negro. Everybody knows it, to those who need to know. It's the miseducation of the Negro. When we rise from the dead, they call us Pharaoh. It's the miseducation of the Negro. Everybody Everybody knows except those who need to know. It's the miseducation of the Negro. When we rise from the dead, they call us pharaohs.
The gods are back, the Moors are strapped. We waking up, and we want our land back. Running off, that's a trap. You know them gods don't like that. Waking up from a nap, like where the hell my crown at? Take a step back, like I know this bitch ain't bite back. It's kinda crazy how this karma it strikes back. We enslaved the Slavs, so they slaved us right back. We called them niggas, then they niggered us right back. We brought them to light, but they ain't bring that right back. If I was lazy, dirty dancing with the baby, then maybe, then just maybe won't revolt like Haiti. I too strong, Lord, tour Marcus Garvey your ass. No, but you are leading, God body the man. Now I ain't gotta be bad, and you ain't gotta be mad, but the planet is heating up, so the first I'll be last. I got that melanin that's better than anything you ever medicine. We at your front door, wonder why you never let us in. Oh, I get it, you never wanted to put some credits in. Well, just forget it, cause I don't know if you can edit sin. We've been enlightened long before Thomas Edison. Skeletons to prove that you wasn't even relevant. In the Caucasus Mountains, cause the sun was your deficit. Captain Caveman with the plan of the Jesuits. Check my bloodline, but in time I bring the evidence. Self-governing body, so I don't need no president. Democrat, Republican, donkey versus elephant. I studied it all, so I ain't down with none of that. I self-law and master, so I'm running that. This Molotov cocktail burns faster, so I like the match. Despite the fact that ain't even what I'm mad at. I spit the truth, so here's the roof, so you can yeah that. My skin is brown and here's the proof, but you ain't hearing that. Dead in the eyes of the law, that's why they call you black. Naming all caps when you fall.
A Napa guy knows the only way you'd give a freshly minted driver a brand new car is if he promises to never drive it.